Slice looks to extend their domination with an unprecedented third win in a row. Meanwhile, Meat French lurks in the shadows like a villain in the making, and Marvin the Microbe gets their first taste of the top three. But Red 19 and Racontus file a horse hockey alert. What does that mean? The truth will soon be known on the Clash of the Pencils live stream.
Turn on the stream tonight, short stories in the spotlight. Writers bring their best to light. The story central time. Breaking down the plots, characters that fought, twists that hit the spot. It's all you live tonight. Are you ready for some stories in a live stream glory? It's the contest of the year. Writers have no fear. Catch the suspense unfold. Feel the tales being told. Critiques fair and bold. The truth will soon be known. Jawless from far and wide. Mysteries you can't hide. Every twist takes us all right. By these rules we abide. Are you ready for some stories in a live stream glory? It's the contest of the year. Writers have no fear.
All right, welcome to the Clash of the Pencils live stream, the only full contact creative writing contest, one-page handwritten story contest. My name is Tom Sherman, joined as always by Greg the Reader Peterson. We're here to analyze the character, plot, and settings of the top three submissions we received from the gameplay last night. So if you want to play Clash of the Pencils, here is how. First thing you do is download the app. Links for the iPhone and Android apps are in the description on YouTube here. Then all you do is handwrite a one-page story based on the day's prompt. Take a picture, submit it, and you're in the game. After that, we take our top three submissions of the day and let the internet public at large vote for their favorites. After you pick your favorite, the winner gets announced at the end of each live stream. And at the end of the live stream, the next prompt gets released, which you then submit a story for. Pick your favorite, watch the live stream, submit a story, pick your favorite, watch the live stream. And then it just goes on until I don't know when. Do you ever know when it ends, Greg?
It goes into the nexus of the universe. It's kind of like a black hole here, but a wonderful black hole of creativity.
That is a fact. So let's start diving in and teasing out what happened from yesterday. So take a look at our current leaderboard right now, not including yesterday's scores. Slice in a commanding lead up front with 40 points after winning Tuesday and Wednesday's matches. Rack and Toos, Meat French, and the Huntsman all tied in second with 15 points each, and then Nacho's Story bringing up the rear in fifth place with 10 points. So Slice looks like they have it, but then again, as we've seen before on Clash of the Pencils, this sort of contest can turn on a dime.
It can turn on a dime, but that's second place. There's a silver medal up for grabs for the week. I want to see who is going to go and take it. Tom,
that is a
Tom,
fact.
The angle of the sun is different. We've got NFL football kicking off tonight. Full contact creative writing. Here we go. This is it.
That's right. And good time to mention, actually, there is a horse hockey alert, our first horse hockey alert that we've ever received on the Clash of the Pencils live stream. And this was filed by Red 19 shortly after the admin period yesterday on behalf of Red 19 and Rack and Toos, claiming that there was some horse hockey going on and the submissions weren't administered properly. Went up to the commissioner. Commissioner said, yeah, that's right. And so I don't know what that means. We'll have to find out how that affects the points in the standings later, but let it be known.
Unprecedented. The history books will look back on this like it's 1919.
That is a fact. And if you want to file a horse hockey alert of your own, you just have to get in contact with the commissioner. Who is that? We're not really sure. So
it might be a robotic artificial intelligence from the future. But if there's a will, there's a way.
That's a fact. That is a fact. All right. So carrying on, let's see what else we have beyond the leaderboard. Um, let's take a look at the keys to victory for our authors today. So, first thing is the plot. There's three main parts to a story, and the plot is one of them. Greg, how can our authors dive into the plot? The prompt today, to remind you, is why do teachers like apples?
It was a great prompt. It led to a proliferation of creativity. The plot is something that you cannot overlook from the first sentence that you put down. You need to be going into the plot. A lot of first time writers for Clash of the Pencils only get to the kicking off their thing and they're halfway through the page. This needs to have a beginning that goes as fast as it can to the middle of the story. Build that tension, build to that climax in the plot, and then pay it off with a dramatic ending that both reverses the reader's expectations and also feels inevitable as a part of this world. Is it a tragedy? Is it a comedy? Does it a happy ending? Those are where you get your leverage in terms of plot.
That's right. And with one page, like you say, got to get as much plot in there as quickly as possible. So then our next pillar of the story is setting. What can writers do to get into the heart of the setting as quickly as possible?
I'm a big fan of front loading the setting as early as possible, almost like it's a play where you set the scenery on the stage before the characters come out. Think of your story in those terms. Get the scenery, the objects. Are there trees? Is it sunny? Colors are our story about 3000 algorithm loves colors. If you put those in, they pop in the reader's imagination. So get as much of that early as possible and then call back to it. Call back to it as you go through more plot and character in the end.
Good point. You lay the foundation and then you call back to it and remind them about those details. And then finally, characters. So, of course, what's a plot and what's a setting without a character?
Characters, we love them or hate them. We need to feel something. And we need to either be rooting for them or rooting against them. Or if we're rooting against them, we might secretly be rooting for them if it's like an anti hero. But the key is getting interesting, dynamic characters that are not cookie cutter call outs or stereotypes. We want individuals who are doing interesting things in whatever world and on whatever quest that you're putting them on.
That is a good point. I once knew a woman from Costa Rica, and she would call people in TV shows who didn't really stand out muebles, which meant a piece of furniture that you don't really know what it is. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
sideboard. It's
Yeah.
kind of like an end table. It's just kind of there. So
There might be a
no, we
prompt.
don't
There
need any
might
of
be a prompt in there somewhere, Tom.
that. There really might be. If we dig in, I'm sure we could find something. All right. So what happens is when when these three elements combined, they triangulate to create a story. The closer an author can strike to the center of each element, the more engaging, visceral, and exciting that story will be. And so that is how we are going to analyze our submissions today. And with that, no further ado, let's just hop right in. Our first story of the day. Let's go with Meat French. Meat French has been flirting with the top three for the past few rounds, and yet unable to bring home that elusive championship. So let's see. This is Meat French's story for Why Do Teachers Like Apples? And it is titled Bok Choy.
Mr. Reedy, a beloved high school biology teacher, had a secret. He absolutely hated apples, yet every morning, without fail, his desk would be piled with them, thanks to his students. Why? Because of a rumour that teachers loved apples, started by none other than Mr. Reedy himself. Years ago, in a moment of frustration over his students' constant chattering, he had joked, "Quiet down, or I'll trade all your snacks for apples." The class took it seriously and began offering him apples daily, hoping for an A+. One day, a student named Mud finally asked, "Mr. Reedy, why do you love apples so much?" He grinned and replied, "Because it's the only way to keep you all guessing." The class burst out into laughter, realizing the joke was on them. From that day on, Mr. Reedy's desk was filled with bananas.
All right, so here we have Mr. Reedy, biology teacher, hates apples and yet threatens his students to trade all of their snacks for apples, and then backfiring until one day The students decide to give him bananas instead of apples.
Oh man, Mr. Reedy said, "I'm going to keep you all guessing." Well, Meat French has kept us and his readers guessing. This was quite the departure from what we were anticipating. Um, I would say the setting here is hinging entirely on apples and bananas. We get sort of just these gestures towards a classroom. The character, we have a beloved teacher who's a bit of a jokester. But I didn't see that the students, we get one who's named Mud, they offer any resistance other than the reversal at the end. When I was talking earlier about the plot in which it needs to have some sort of twist to land it, I liked the bananas, and I really like how Storyflex inflected the tone banana, like even got the joke, which was the timing of it, which was interesting for artificial intelligence. The plot was the premise of the plot, if I'm trying to think about it here, I'm going to trade. He jokes, Mr. Reedy jokes, I'm going to trade all your snacks for apples. But then the kids took it seriously. And so then that was the crux of this. Now, why was he trading all the snacks for apples? What was he doing with the apples? This was left a little bit unclear and could have been further defined. But then by the kids being serious, in the end, they actually end up joking back with him by all bringing bananas. So there is some coordinated resistance in the classroom, but it was a nice story. It felt like the first day of school. I don't know, Tom. What did you think about this?
Yeah, it it seems like a good old down home, fun time with a fun teacher, I guess. You know what I mean? Like one of the teachers that doesn't mind uh getting inundated with apples or bananas. It's I don't know. I kind of had a bit of a problem. I guess the plot there was as far as the turning the bananas and the apples. It just yeah, it was a good story. I just kind of felt like it hit the edges of everything. It didn't really
I
pierce
agree.
into the center of any of it.
I agree 100%. That while the ending of the plot was successful, I don't feel like the stakes were high enough for that ending. It was a bit of just like throwing a pebble into the pond with the ripple effects rather than a boulder, which sometimes if
Right.
you have more stakes in the beginning, if this has more tension in the middle. This was just kind of a funny little like light story. So I agree. It hit
Yep.
all the things on the edges, but it didn't get into the inner core of
Right.
story bliss.
So, good start here from Meat French. Let's see what happens next. We will go to Slices. This one's called Life of Pi.
Life of Pi. I can't believe I accepted this silly prize. Teacher for a day. It's more of a punishment. Sanjay got to be principal for a day. There he is, right there out in the parking lot on the Segway checking tags. The teachers thought it was so funny to give me all this apple stuff. I hate pie, fritters, sauce, cider, tarts, dumplings, cobbler, butter, chips, turnovers, donuts, cake. The old iPhone case was really clever, and the earbud pockets with Mr. Glass's wax. Delightful. I don't even know how to teach these kids. How do I get taught? I just want to disappear. Sanjay got to be principal, not Nahar. Nope, Nahar, teaching is more your speed. Thanks, Mum. Thanks, Dad. Glad me and Sanjay teamed up to bring in the highest tonnage of recycling in all of Livestream Glory County. Bag after bag of J-Rock Zumba cricket feed. Why do dancing soccer moms need that many insects? I don't want to know. Unloaded into compost storybot. Boxes and empty bottles of Bologna, the cologne by Frank Stallone's clone I unearthed. Also, I found all these weird calendars with only 7 days in a week and no mention of Pluto. All that sweat and digging and turning over warm garbage for this, the worst consolation prize of all time. My parents even packed me an apple for lunch today. Am I a horse? I'm not posing of the fruit. What choice do I have? The world will always see me only as a teacher. No matter how much dirt I dig up, the Sanjays will always be the principal, luxuriously checking tags. Sometimes you just lose your spark. At 11, I've lost mine already. I blame society for creating this and doing nothing, for forcing me to deal in used ideas and cliches. What chance did I have at originality? I repeat back the doctrine you push on me for years, and all I can be after recycling your spent works is a teacher. A teacher with apples. I take a bite and loathe to enjoy the crisp, practical snack between periods.
Mark. Okay,
Wow.
so Nahar. along with Sanjay, apparently collect enough litter and garbage to win a consolation prize, in which in which they're awarded principal and teacher for a day. Sanjay gets principal for a day. Nahar gets teacher for a day. Watches jealously as Sanjay performs duties such as checking license tags on the Segway. Meanwhile, Nahar gets inundated with apples, which he hates.
Yeah, Life of Pi was a very interesting, and for me, the obviously with Slice, we get the setting, and it's the setting is through just listing a ton of incredibly detailed objects that then in turn comprise the world. I loved how the highest tonnage of recycling was the prize. I I love bits of trash as a recurring element in all of Slice's fiction, in his oeuvre. The best was the Bologna, Frank Stallone's cologne. The words of that all sounding similarly was a nice touch. In terms of the plot, I thought it was a really dynamic premise that had it kind of accelerated. All right, we're a student for a day, and we're inside the perspective. It was a first person perspective, kind of just complaining a little bit about the unfairness with Sanjay. At one point, the story switched for me. For sometimes at 11, sometimes you just lose your spark. And then it went on this kind of literary meditation on the significance of the entire system,
Hmm.
ironically using cliches, bemoaning the fact that there's no originality and using cliches, but then basically saying that the system is corrupt. That's where the tension of the plot in terms of the action really lost it for me, and it became more of an essay
Hmm.
rather than a story. So the
Right.
plot was a little far for me. I think the character development was strong. I don't know, Tom. What did you think?
Yeah, I think probably the character development was the since we had this sort of inside diatribe from Nahar, we really got their point of view. And then especially at the end when it falls into this sort of existential soliloquy, I feel like I got that character's mindset pretty well. The the setting is again strong, like you say, with the sort of precise objects and things like the Segway, like the principal going around on the Segway checking tags, stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it was overall a classic sort of strong work by Slice. I do think the plot was a little bit missing, as with the first one. I did think it was interesting that so far the theme has been teachers don't like apples. It's been a misdirection the whole time.
Right. In terms of the plot for both of these, it does seem like there were interesting premises to open, but then they failed to use apples to explain why they were doing these things with the
Hmm.
apples. The apples are a bit of a prop,
Right.
but they're not like the central symbol of the story in terms of
Interesting.
unlocking the character, is what I'm trying to say and sort
I
of
see.
struggling to say. But I'm curious about the third one. How are they going to
Yeah.
use this apple?
And that's from Marvin the Microbe. This one's called the Man Plan. Let's see if they can strike any closer to the center in the plot.
I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top, or down to the core, Margot said without a hint of sarcasm as she took a bite of the apple. It all started in 1918 when Horace Mann began the public school system. Suddenly all the street rats and gutter pigeons were inside all day and needed feeding. So Mann decides to give each kid an apple while saying, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away." However, here's the rub. Guess whose family owned an apple orchard outside New York City that was big enough to supply endless amounts of apples all year long? That's right, Horace Mann's. Eventually, school and apples became so intertwined, people just assumed teachers liked them. So they brought Mann free apples that he's selling back to them. Margot laughed and threw her core into the teacher's lounge.
And so here we have Margot telling somebody about a conspiracy regarding why teachers like apples. All traces back to Horace Mann, who started the public school system simply to sell his family's apples. And then all of a sudden, the rumor gets out that teachers like apples so much that they bring him free apples to sell back. and then Margot throws her apple core into a teacher's lounge.
This this was an interesting take. I loved the opening line. It goes straight to the top or down to the core without the hint of sarcasm. We get a little bit. Margot is that's the only real pop of character we get, because we get it's really a story about a storyteller telling a conspiracy. So Margot does that in the beginning, and then we get her throwing the apple core at the end. So that was a nice bookending in terms of character and plot. Now in the middle, we just get world building. We just get conspiratorial. Let me tell you this rumor or this piece of gossip involving, the founder of the public school system, and then some side hustle that's actually the main event, which would be, if we think back to Racontus's artichoke farms, it's a similar. It's almost like this inspired it. There's not enough artichokes going out. Well, there's too much apples going into the school system, and something's not right in this old timey gumshoe conspiracy, which I think is interesting, that it's really about the produce. Whatever institutions we're building around to house the story of the produce, it's really the food supply is where you want to look for where the power lies.
Right. You got to follow the money sometimes. So yeah, I thought it was probably, it seemed to me that to have the strongest plot, even though, like you said, it wasn't really about the character. It's a storyteller telling a story, but it still had that sort of drive of, something's happening with these apples, something nefarious is happening with the apple. It kind of, I felt it kind of hit the plot a little bit more, but like you're saying, the characters in the setting were probably a little bit on the outside, compared to Meat French and Slices.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see which one gets the top vote from the voting
Mhm.
public, because they were three very different stories. I think tonally they struck at different levels. I can't see it's anyone's ball game on this
That is a
Thursday.
fact. It is anyone's ball game. So let's just get right to it. Although actually, I guess we should take a quick break and take this word from our sponsors.
Come to J-Rock Subaru. Now change your it's on a great heat lapse. Feel like a lizard again. Sweat it out, let it pour. Burn the dance floor. Free lifetime membership. There are up to 100 classes. Come and dance, come and sweat. The skill you won't regret. Feel the beat in your bones. Stretch it out, lose control. Groovy moves, energy high. Dance with us, touch the sky. Free lifetime membership. There are up to 100 classes. Come and dance, come and sweat. The skill you won't regret.
That is J Rock's Zumba Room, free lifetime membership after 100 classes, and with sauna grade heat lamps, they'll have you feeling like a lizard again. So check them out. Um, all right, so let's head on down and check out the leaderboard. Actually, I was just starting to update it. Hitting the button here. Slice, the winner of the night, third in a
Man,
row, unprecedented,
3 for 3.
getting the vote out. Unbelievable.
Incredible, incredible.
That's
Well,
it's one of those things. Consistency is key. Otherwise, that's one of the things. However, Racontus and Red 19, from the commissioner's ruling, they both get a 45-point bump from the horse hockey alert. So
wow,
that's pretty.
wow.
That's not bad. Nothing to sniff at. And then Marvin the Microbe getting 15 points. Meanwhile, Meat French getting another 10 points. So let's see. Let's add all these up and see where we're at, because nothing better than math on a
It
live
looks to
stream,
me
right?
like Racontus is back in the week. Slice might be Slice might be teacher for the day and winning that prize with the most recycling tonnage, but oh man, Sanjay in the form of Racontus is there still the principal out checking tags on the Segway. It's anybody's game for the week.
It
Tomorrow,
is anybody's game. Even Red 19 in the mix. Meat French also around. Well, Meat French might be playing for second. We'll have to see about that one. And then Huntsman, Nacho Story, Marvin the Microbe, all rounding out with 15 points each. So yeah, good luck on this next prompt, which is oddly enough coming up right here. Your school introduces a AI principle improving efficiency. What happens when it starts making increasingly bizarre rules and decisions? So your school
AI
introduces an AI
principle.
principle to improve efficiency. What happens when it starts making increasingly bizarre rules and decisions? You've got 6.5 hours to write that story out. Greg, what do you think of the three pillars here? The plot, story, or the plot, characters, and setting. Which one jumps out of you as one of the ones to focus on here?
I think the character development is going to be a challenge because there's a robot. There's a robot, and people's reaction to the robot, increasingly bizarre
I can't
edicts and
hear you, Greg. Are
laws.
you muted?
What could go wrong with AI ruling all of us? Nothing. We salute our overlords. They're certainly not running Clash of the Pencils.
I couldn't hear you. Can I?
I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
I can hear
You
you.
can't hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Nothing.
Can you
What
hear
about?
me? I
I
can't
can
hear
hear
you.
you. Yes.
You can hear me?
No.
Oh, I can't. Okay, great. Well, I'm sure it was great analysis. I couldn't hear a thing you said. We'll be back tomorrow with less technical difficulties, I'm sure. Uh, until then, my name is Tom Sherman, and keep writing in between the lines.
Don't let your creativity be captured.
Nice.
Turn on the street tonight. Short stories in the spotlight. Writers bring their best to light. The story central time. Breaking down the plot. Characters that fought. Twists that hit the spot. It's all you live tonight. Are you ready for some stories? In a live stream glory. It's the contest of the year. Writers have no fear. Catch the suspense unfold. Feel the tales being told. Critiques fair and bold. The truth will soon be known. Jawless from far and wide. Mysteries you can't hide. Every twist takes us all right. By these rules we abide. Are you ready for some stories?